All right, welcome to another episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast. Two matches in a week, European competition, Noni Hattrick. What a weekend it was. But we got a full house to talk about it. You got myself, Andy, you got Parker, and we got Matt. Matt, how you doing?
Doing good after a long weekend. Spent part of Saturday at the Dinosaur Adventure at the Waukesha County Expo Center. So took the little man there and got to see some dinosaurs and got to play in some bouncy houses and just had himself a blast. So it was a good time. And yesterday helping Collins move into his new digs. So got to spend the day with him, and then just relaxing. It's been hot in Wisconsin. Well, staying inside has been a privilege. So I'm very excited to finally be home, relaxing in my nice cold basement. Marks, how are things with you? How was the weekend?
Far more relaxing than your boys this weekend was. It was a good weekend. My wife and I celebrated 10-year anniversary on Friday. So big milestone there. And we've been on the move or on the run or hosting people constantly, what feels like all summer. So we're like, fuck it. No, we're not seeing anyone. We're not doing anything with anyone else. We're not seeing anyone. We're not taking no one. Just we're spending the weekend together. So we actually took a little day trip up to a mountain town called Netherland. It's just on the other side of Boulder, about 35 minutes there. But it's cool. It's like at 9,000 feet. Just a quaint little cool mountain town. So I spent the day up there and just got out. So it was kind of fun. But it's new pinball day in the Gross household. So I sold one, bought one. So we got Rick and Morty pinball up and firing in the basement, and it is fucking phenomenal. It's a great game. They got Justin Roiland to do custom call outs for it as Rick, and he just kind of curses at you the whole time. So it breaks the fourth wall. It's kind of like Deadpool, right? It breaks the fourth wall. They don't take it too seriously, and it's a good time. So it's a fun thing to have in the basement on those hot summer days, Matt. That's me. It's been a great weekend. And from Thursday to Sunday, got to celebrate not one but two Chelsea wins. So I'm in a good mood, even though, as you'll hear, there are some positives and some negatives to that take, but overall good. How's how you doing, man?
I'm good. Which pinball machine did you sell again?
Sold Deadpool.
Okay. So just as long as it's not Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park's my baby, man. That one's
Awesome. Well, I am gassed. As Matt mentioned, I moved this weekend, and convincing my wife to downsize and purge has been a treat, a real treat. So we're in the process of doing that right now. Everything's in the new place, but man, I just keep looking out my window, and the view of downtown Milwaukee is just worth every penny. I love it. And this is my last pod for a couple weeks, so I'm feeling no pressure tonight. Next weekend, heading over to Europe, so very excited about that. But man, I apologize if I start dozing off during the pod. All right, well, we weren't dozing off this week. Like Parker mentioned, two wins, a European win. We had not won in Europe for a year and a half now at this point. 2-0 win over Servette, and then a 6-2. I don't want to call it thumping because it could have went either way, but it was a thumping over Wolves. Boys, where do we want to start?
I feel like we're obligated to at least mention the Servette match. So we start there.
It's 2-0, but outshot by the Swiss. They're not even Swiss powerhouses. Swiss mid-table club at Stamford Bridge, where they have 22 shots in that match. We come away with a 2-0 win. Philip Jorgensen in his debut, keeping the clean sheet, which was huge. But wait, what are your impressions from our return to Europe?
Rusty, one word. It took us a bit to kind of get going. Kind of felt just uncomfortable in general. It wasn't the same lineup. So there's a couple of changes to the lineup, what we saw against City and what we saw against Wolves as well. So a little bit understanding, and I know some guys didn't play preseason, so it's a little bit, still trying to put the puzzle pieces together for where people fit, how things are going to kind of move and whatnot. There were stretches of possession that we conceded to Servette where they looked great. They looked like the far more dominant team. They created a lot of chances. And like, I don't always know what shows up as a chance on their stats or whatever, but there was a point in time, I think it was like in the 30th, 35th minute, something like that. They put 2 balls into the box on crosses that were just begging to have someone on the end of. And I don't even think that goes down as a chance. It wasn't a shot, but they had just missed them. And I'm thinking to myself, like, if this is against Premier League talent or anyone else, kind of a thought, like in the Europa League or Champions League, anyone else, these are goals. Like, these are very clear goal scoring opportunities that we're conceding. Backline shaky, midfield inconsistent. Our attack was, I'll call it so-so. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't great. Mudryk upset me more than anyone. He had a very Mudryk game. Does one thing really great and then does one thing really terrible right after it. So he just has these like hot moments and then turns the ball over or just decides to dribble directly at somebody and just turn it over. So he had moments like that were unimpressive, but I can't remember who had was the first goal penalty. Was it Nkunku?
It was.
And then Noni with the second one, that Enzo assist. All right. Yeah. The Noni goal was pretty. The Nkunku goal was easily called. It was about as easy of a penalty to spot as you could have it. So yeah, common theme for the weekend was game could have gone either way. I could have seen us dropping 2 goals easily in that game. We would have had a dogfight on our hands going away for the second leg and being down. So happy we pulled it out, but it was shaky. It was nervy.
So I feel like I'm doing this pod a disservice because I have not watched a Chelsea match since probably last year. Just haven't had time to. So I defer to you guys on a lot of this stuff and kind of keeping up with our group chat. I'll be the optimistic one. It's a win, right? We're not used to those in recent times. I think getting that win out of the way for European competition it's good in kind of building that confidence, right? We talk about the influx of players and the changing of personnel all the time. Finding small victories like that to kind of help the team gel, I think helps. I think we're starting to see a little bit of the squad rotation, trying to see some different pairings, who's going to work, who's not, who's more effective, kind of coming off the bench, maybe later in matches, things like that. And I think that's kind of all that was. It was a tune-up. We went in there with the expectation on paper that we should win. We went in, we handled business. You got to win ugly sometimes. It's good to see that we can pull that out early in the season.
Yeah, and that's my mentality with this match too. Is it's a European playoff to get to the group stages. A win's a win. The Swiss League, they started about, I think, 4 weeks before we did. So it's just like preseason, where all the teams we're facing are more into their season, or in case of preseason, more into their preseason than we are. We're 2 matches in at that point, that being our second match, first one against City, where you need a lot of rotation coming off of a tough match against City. So I'll take a 2-goal lead going into Switzerland this week. I don't think Maresca is going to sit back in this one. It doesn't seem to be his style. So I think there'll be goals in the second leg, but having that cushion going into it is a plus. And we get to see Philip Jorgensen again, first clean sheet of the season. You get to contrast him and Bobby Sanchez, who I thought has done all right to start the season. And then you get to see what you have on the wings. We have a lot of attacking options. And Parker, like you said, Mudryk, subpar, and Maresca acknowledged as much in his post-game presser. But you also see somebody like Noni Madueke, who is like Mudryk, somebody who thrives on repetition, getting those reps, being consistently in the line, starts something nice for him. And so these first couple weeks are going to be all about where does everybody fall into that depth chart. And a match like this is perfect for that.
Quick things. One, Servette is 7th in the Swiss League. So that's why relatively disappointed. If they were like leading the Swiss league, it'd be one thing, or kind of top hunt. But the other is the goalie matchup, Collins. I like that you brought that up because it feels like we're going to have a cup keeper and a league keeper, which we haven't had for a few seasons. And it's going to be interesting to watch that develop out because Jorgensen's going to get some consistent minutes. And yeah, I haven't minded Bobby Sanchez's performance. A lot of fans seem to discredit him for or give him the blame for that second City goal against Kovacic. So no, not everybody is sold on him right now, including 2/3 of this pod, to be completely honest. But it'll be interesting to watch it play out. It's going to be one to watch. And like I said, he's going to get minutes. He has a chance to kind of perform on pitch where we haven't had a keeper minutes like that for a minute.
Yeah, and we fell down the hole of, buy a bunch of 20 million pound keepers, and you're getting what you pay for at that point. They're young, they're inexperienced, and we know keepers hit their prime later than outfield players, so they're all very young for that position. And so let them battle it out. I'm glad that it's not like last year where it was Sanchez until he got injured and then Petrovic, and then we had this real awkward scenario at the end of the year. I like the cup keeper idea, especially when you have two young keepers who seem to fit Maresca's style of play.
All right, one last thing, because I have to bring up Mark Hughes' miss. Boy, was that the miss of the season. I'm absolutely baffled how he managed to do that. We don't have to talk about it. We don't have to say anything else, but holy shit, man. That was a spectacular miss.
I need a G unit drop. I need to make one. Put it in right there. It'll be our G unit update of the week. All right. Well, you're right. We're not going to talk about that because he's my guy. But let's go to the weekend. At Wolves, coming off a subpar performance against Servette and a really subpar performance against City. Who knew what to expect going into this one? And honestly, at halftime, who knew what to expect going into that second half? 6-2, it ends up. Noni Madueke with the hat trick. Some goals scattered in there as well from Cole Palmer, João Felix on his return, and Nico Jackson in the fastest Chelsea goal, I think, since 2018 or something like that. So where do you guys want to start with this one? Because there is a lot to unpackage in that 6-2 win.
What, Matt?
The fact that we scored 6 goals, let's just bring that up. How many times have we said on this pod we should have had at least 5 or 6? We actually got 6. We actually converted these chances. That's great news. I don't know what else to say. Revisionist history, right? If we're looking at the last few seasons, we would have expected to only get 1, maybe 2 of those. We got 6. It's pretty damn good. I'll take that. The question is, can we keep up that consistency when it comes to finishing off chances? Remains to be seen. But I'm celebrating the now. We scored 6.
Well, talking about revisionist history and all that going through previous years, we saw things in this match that we did not see in previous seasons. We saw Noni Madueke score with his right for the second straight match. Parker, you've been all preseason, now that you have access to our Twitter, I wish Noni had a right foot. Well, he showed you he's got a right foot. We saw Nico Jackson score on a simple chance, unmarked header. Matt, you have ripped him time and time again for missing the simple chances. He did that. João Felix, who everybody thinks had a failed loan 2 years ago, scores on his debut. Then Cole Palmer wasn't really outside the norm. That was a very Cole Palmer goal, so I'm not going to discredit him there. But we saw things that we have not seen in a while at Chelsea. So I got to give the boys credit there.
It was a fun one, but it was chaotic at best. Like, it was, obviously when you look at 6-2, you think that's a celebration scoreline. It's just like, it didn't feel like it, at halftime or shortly after halftime, felt like we could have conceded 6 as well. So it just like, and there was a common theme of like, they scored, but it was called offside, or they could have scored, had a gift of a header in the box, and then we scored right after. It was like the direct play following that where we just kind of took it to them. So the timing of it really deflated them, really took the wind out of their sails, where they had a near high. I think it was like Lamina just had a thunderbolt of a kick, and that got called back. And I was just like, that was nice. And just moments like that where everything seemed to drop our way, which again doesn't really tend to happen too often for Chelsea. So we'll take it. It was, I mean, it was great. I like what you guys pointed out. I mean, Nico found himself unmarked at the back post for a header, puts it in. Obviously, it's not going to be the most celebrated goal of the season. Doesn't have to be. Nico just needs to keep scoring, and it doesn't matter how he gets goals. He has one job, and that's to score goals. So not going to diss him for that, because he did his job. Palmer with 3 assists, all the Noni, is hilarious to me. What I liked about this lineup is and I haven't said this often, I haven't liked Enzo getting as forward as he has in previous ones, but he got pretty forward, and I enjoyed what I saw out of him. I thought he had a pretty decent game. What I didn't like was I thought Caicedo had a pretty subpar first 35 minutes. One of the turnovers was all his doing. He got taken from behind and led to a goal. So he needs to be more secure and solid on ball. It made me wonder, hypothesize in real time, if Lavia had that ball, if he would have given it up as easily. It seems like he's a bit more solid. So one to watch is this lineup as it sits, with like Neto for Mudryk and then Lavia for Caicedo. I think that's pretty close to getting to our best 11. Backline is still up for debate. Obviously, Reece James makes a difference. And then Wes and Levi, Hosen and Badiashile and Sassi, you're going to have a mixed bag of people back there. Palmer and Noni and Nico, Enzo are starting to form together. And I thought Enzo really kind of pulled the strings a lot and distribute pretty well from where he played. And then Palmer did Palmer things from there.
And the best thing about all of that, and we have been asking for years, I think since the start of this pod, for just quicker thought processes, quicker play, right? Quick passing. We had quick, 1-2s going all across the pitch. There actually seemed to be chemistry there, and Enzo was a big part of that. But another thing, talking about quickness, this reminded me of, it was probably about 10 years ago now, where it was Willian and Eden Hazard up top, and it's just, you have so much speed up there. That's before Willian got old. You had Hazard, who could be silky but also really run at you. You had Willian, who was just crazy fast, right? But our breakaways, and I think of the one late on, Pedro Neto down that left wing that sets up João Felix. We had, 4 or 5 guys in on that attack, just sprinting. But the speed of the attack is what's going to kill other teams, especially late in matches. So if this is what's coming up, I think there's going to be problems for the rest of the league.
So I have a question. I'm just looking at the lineup and looking at how we were kind of organized, like a 4-2-3-1. So it's kind of touching on the Caicedo thing. Looking at this, so you've got Jackson up top, Mudryk on the left, Noni on the right, Palmer in the middle. Then you have Enzo and Caicedo. I don't see Caicedo as your pivot. I just don't. I don't. He seems more like an N'Golo Kante type. I wouldn't trust him necessarily on the ball as much being that pivot. I trust him to break up plays. But if you're running Enzo and Caicedo and kind of like that defensive mid, and if Enzo's playing up, even with an inverted wingback system, whether you have Gusto or Cucurella, you're sacrificing a lot making Caicedo kind of that pivot. Don't know if that's going to be a good fit for him. I think he needs to be a little bit freer to kind of just run around like N'Golo Kante did. Like, he didn't really have a rhyme or reason. He was just go break up the play. I think that fits Caicedo better. I don't see him as being that firm number 6. And like I said, with Enzo playing so far up, I don't think Enzo is going to be the one to constantly be going back trying to, start the build up. I think we're relying too much on Caicedo for that, and I don't think you're getting the best out of him. That being said, who do you take out to do that work? Do we trust Lavia to fill that role over Caicedo? I don't think so at this point. I'm just kind of intrigued on what thoughts you guys have, just kind of looking at that. I'm not sure if Caicedo is if we're getting the best out of him as being that full-blown kind of number 6.
See, I think that is the perfect spot for Caicedo. He's a decent enough passer of the ball where he can fill in that pivot role of, defend, cut out passes, and then also either distribute to Enzo for him to get it out, or to find a Pedro Neto or Mudryk or somebody going down the wing. I think Caicedo can do that. I think Caicedo's biggest asset is his kind of defensive IQ. He has a good sense for where the play is going to be developing. Then he will usually either be in the area at a minimum, or be able to step in, cut off passes. And so for him and whoever the wingback happens to be, who's playing inverted, to be in front of that front line, I think that's great for him. I don't trust Caicedo to shoot the ball. I would not put him in that N'Golo Kante position of playing so far up, especially when you have the amount of attackers and decent attackers that we have up top. I mean, you think about N'Golo Kante and him playing so far up, that was out of necessity. We didn't have anybody else who could play that far up. So no, I think it's getting right now, that position is getting the best out of Caicedo, but it's who do you partner him with, I think is the bigger issue. You got 3 guys fighting for 2 positions, Enzo, Lavia, and Caicedo. And what is the best combination out of those 3? And that I'm not sure of.
Yeah, it's interesting you say the pairing there, because the pairing in attack is going to be Caicedo plus one of the inverted wingbacks. So it's kind of like a different pairing then too, because he's going to get looks of Cucurella, looks of Gusto, and presumably James. We haven't really seen that effect yet, but I'm guessing Reece James is going to play that position as well at some point. So I'm most worried about our structure defensively, period, because I think early signs say that we're a bit too careless with possession in the middle of the pitch, which leads to turnovers, which leads to goals effectively. You can't turn the ball over in the middle of the pitch during the build-up play. Teams are going to kill you. Teams are just going to absolutely roast you. So been a variety of fault in that. And like I said, one of which was Caicedo's over the weekend. He was dribbling. I thought he got fouled from behind, to be completely fair. Thought it was a foul. Then wasn't called. Then everybody turns in a half chance to try to take someone off the ball, and it doesn't work, and it leads to an easy goal. So that's where the system for me breaks down. But I think of the 3 fighting for 2, I thought Enzo's position was most kind of up for grabs. He was kind of in no man's land. He wasn't a pivot. He wasn't great going forward. Also, ironically, someone I don't really want shooting the ball, but someone who I don't think we need to shoot the ball. I don't think he's going to be asked to score. He's going to be asked to pull strings and make things happen, which I think he's done a good job of so far. So I can see Enzo playing that pivot position in a pinch or a necessity. Still reluctantly but optimistic on Lavia is and what he can bring. He's had a pretty great preseason plus first couple looks, but too small of a sample size for me to just be like, that's our guy. Caicedo's getting benched for him. I think it's still going to be up in the air. There's still going to be a lot of rotation, regardless of form, just due to necessity of match fitness. So we're going to see a couple looks. I think it'll be really interesting to see what we think in a month or 6 weeks time after we've seen 8-9 matches, and then we can kind of pretty well stamp who we think is the best player there.
Yeah, and I think for me and Collins, I will fully say that I'm well aware. I think this may just be me shitting on the number 6 position in general, regardless of who the hell's playing it. But the one thing that I have seen with Caicedo is when he does have possession, I know he can pass. I have no issues with that. It's when he's in possession, that's where I have concerns, because Parker, like you said, he got taken off the ball. Whether it was a foul or not, so be it. But I have seen it other times before. Maybe they haven't led to like actual goals, but I have seen it, whether it's a back pass or something like that. It just seems somewhat careless, or somebody does kind of, track back and kind of catch them off guard. I've just seen it enough times where it's kind of something that lingers. So that's the only reason why I bring it up. And at that point, if you have Enzo playing more forward, you're not going to take, Palmer, you're not taking him out of that spot. You're not taking anybody up top. Their places are solidified. So if you do that, you bring Enzo up, you bring one of the inverted wing backs. Well, now you're kind of stuck in a back three, and we're already struggling with a back four. So I'm trying to gauge kind of what do we do with that if we see that maybe that's not the best option. But I agree. I think time will tell, but I'm just hoping that it's just a small hiccup with Caicedo. But I mean, I like the guy. Don't get me wrong. It's just a position, I guess.
I do too, Matt. And to be fair, I think he lost the ball 3 or 4 times. And the fourth was the time that led to the goal. Like, he had a bad first bit and he got better. And our second half was much better all around. First half, a lot of chaos. Second half, a lot of dominance. But he got taken off, 2 or 3. Uncharacteristic for there to be that many, but not uncharacteristic in the sense where I agree with you. I've seen it enough times to be slightly worried.
Well, I think the wonderful thing about this is that we're going to see a lot of rotation this year. You're going to get to see Caicedo in several different positions. You're going to see Enzo in several different positions, Lavia in several different positions, all kinds of different partnerships. Because at the end of the day, we could have up to 70 matches this year. We got the Club World Cup at the end of the season. Could be a deep run in the Conference League, which is now expanded. Who knows about the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup? We're going to be seeing a lot of different variations of this, and I think that that's only good as these guys learn Maresca's system and where they're supposed to be on the pitch, what they're supposed to be doing on the pitch, what their assignment is. I think these hiccups at the beginning of the season, where Caicedo was not with them for the preseason, these will be alleviated. I would say within about a month, maybe 2 months. All right. Well, Parker, you had mentioned earlier about 6-2 being a celebratory score. That reminded me, I do really just briefly want to ask, we'll ask you, Parker, what the hell was the celebration between João Felix and Pedro Neto?
The chariot celebration? You mean the legendary celebration that I hope gets coded into whatever FIFA is now called, EA Sports Soccer or whatever? Yeah, that one was fantastic. That was that was one of my favorite moments of the match. I mean, Felix just getting kind of carried off, or Neto was getting carried off. Man, that was just perfect. I know we've lost some of our guys that's brought some fire. We talk a lot about passion and passionate play and celebrations last year when things went well. Chippier match, especially in the beginning. Goals were scored early and fans were celebrating, or players were celebrating against other fans. There was a bit of skirmishes after every single goal. So yeah, it was kind of a enjoy it moment where you get to see creative celebrations and just kind of celebrations in general. Not going to hate on the team for doing that.
So one more thing I want to bring up that's off of the topics that we had discussed pre-pod here. Talking about Pedro Neto. What do we make of Raheem Sterling's squad? Obviously, we know that these guys are being sold, but Raheem Sterling's squad number being revoked before he even leaves the club. Trev's number being revoked before he leaves the club. Any thoughts on this?
I mean, they're out the door. They don't have numbers. They've been reduced to Malang Sarr territory. You're getting the point across. I guess that's one way to look at it. Like, yeah, it's kind of squared away, done deal. I don't know. I personally don't like it, but I understand it. New manager, big club, trying to, kind of stamp your own thing on the club and handle business your way. I just not huge fan of it, but I get it.
One thing Maresca has done that I'll give him credit for is he's been very direct. He told Raheem, told others that they're not part of the plan, that they're not part of the mission, that we're going to go separate ways. I don't remember when it was, but he was asked, like, how do you manage a 62-person roster or whatever? He's like, I don't have a 62-person roster. I have a 22-person roster and then a group of guys that go train at sea. Like, he made it very clear. Those guys aren't my guys. My guys are the guys that I work with, and don't mix words about it. Like, so he's been very direct about it, which I'm happy about. Obviously, Trev's situation, he was kind of indirectly direct about it by just kind of leaving him off the preseason roster. Brad's situation was made blatantly clear right after the city match, or right when the announcement of the lineup came for the city match. So, yeah, he's coming in and doing what he has to do. Also, don't love, like, you don't get a number now, like, and we're just giving your number away. But to be fair, what do you expect? I mean, should we just dance around it and give him a temporary number then until he actually goes? Like, that also doesn't really make a ton of sense. Like, these guys are adults. Raheem can, cry into his wad of $325K a week for a few months and get over it. Be fine.
Yeah, no one seems to really object to the Raheem Sterling one, outside of maybe it's a bit disrespectful to do that while he's still on the books. There's something with that story that we're not being told with Sterling, because it's been pretty much since day one. He's a great leader. He wants to be here. He wants to prove himself, but he's now on his third manager that doesn't trust him. So there was something going on there. I'm good with him not getting a squad number. Trev is another one. I think that I don't know if it's not, we're not hearing something about it, but there also doesn't seem to be anyone interested in signing Trev. And which, confirmation bias for me, who has really never been impressed by Trev, kind of leads me to believe that he's being overpaid. Yeah, I mean, if that's how you can get these guys out, send them the message, fine. It's not a good PR look. You can't manage a 42-person squad. So if you're not a part of the plans, you're not a part of the plans. Then you get Malangsard. All right. Well, we haven't given too much credit to the Hattrick hero. Parker, we'll start with you on this one. Rate his performance.
4 goals in 4 days. Like, doesn't get much better. We needed him to score both. Garbage time throwaway goals. He's been dynamic, as we've seen in preseason. Hasn't always gotten the results. If he has a right foot, like actually has a right foot, holy shit, look out, because he could be incredible. But yeah, I mean, I've said it for a while. He's been really one of our best one-on-one attackers. He does a lot of what Mudryk does, but better with an end product, whether he's crossing a ball or shooting. Like, both options are better from him than from Mudryk. And you just have to love the story of what happened, where he puts out a tweet or an Instagram, whatever, about everything about this city sucks with his geolocation tagged on it, and then quickly deletes it. I didn't know about this. I wasn't on social media a lot pre-match, and he was getting a lot of boos, and I was like, what happened? What's going on here? And Nico was also getting a lot of boos too. So I was like, what are these knuckleheads up to? What do they get into? And then I see it and I'm like, oh boy, that's pretty fantastic. So for him to say that and then drop triple on him, man, that just kind of cements yourself as either the mayor of the city. It reminds me of some Aaron Rodgers against the Chicago Bears, where on Wikipedia he gets changed as the mayor of the city. And those types of performances, it just kind of reminded me of one of those. But boy called a shot and took a shot and then made it happen. So you gotta love that. And it just was an electric way to do it. I mean, 3 second half goals, and like I said, all of them needed, all of them necessary, and he took his chances well. I was happy for him, and I think he's going to do that a lot this season. Not necessarily 3, but just make chances, create chances, set up teammates, and set himself up. We don't have a ton of.
I'm curious as to So now we're kind of getting into the thick of it, right? We've had our first few matches. We've gone through preseason. It seems like people are starting to kind of fall in place. Collins, you had mentioned that, we're kind of seeing what the pecking order looks like nowadays. There's still a lot of congestion up front. I'm very curious as to, is this a wave that Noni is going on, or is this something that we can expect out of him, day in, day out? I'm not saying 3 goals a game. That's absolutely ridiculous. But can we expect that level out of him every single time he's out there? And is he going to be out there as consistently as, probably a lot of us think that he should be? If that's the case, then, who kind of gets left out into the cold, right? We had talked about the first name that pops into my head is Christopher Nkunku. Where does he now fit in this whole thing, right? If you've got on the right, which used to be Palmer's spot, but then you got Palmer as the 10, the odd man out is Nkunku. Like, I'm very curious. Noni's making things difficult. There's no question about it. After 2 solid performances like that, he's definitely, I think, got to be a lock for first 11 on the team sheet.
Yeah, I don't think he's pushing out Nkunku. I think Nkunku is going to play that support striker role. Kind of 2 in the middle there, Palmer and Nkunku. I think we've talked about in the past of riding, especially with attackers, riding the hot hand. I think Noni's going to get his chance here. But as soon as he's got a couple matches where shit hits the fan for him, has a couple Mudryk matches, I think we're going to see Cole Palmer back out on the right. I don't think a match against Servette and a match against Wolves necessarily solidifies him as first name on the team sheet. No one can do it like Cole Palmer, but do it like Cole Palmer. We need to see consistency over 35, 40 matches, to really solidify that role for him. That being said, very happy for Noni. He went through a rough spell last year with, issues with being out after curfew and all of that. Kind of blacklisted by Poch for a little bit. Just another reason to rip on Poch. But no, good for him and a good start to the season.
I'm curious about where you think Nkunku plays. As we lined up, where we have Nico, striker, Palmer, Noni, Mudryk, and then you have Enzo kind of takes the role that you kind of described, where Enzo in attack sort of scoots next to Palmer. So Palmer is like a right central attacker. Enzo's like a left central attacker. I don't know where Nkunku fits. I think Matt hit it on the head. I think if Noni is a consistent starter, that's an if, big if. If Noni's a consistent starter, I don't know where, because then you've got Mudryk, Nkunku, Felix, and Neto all sort of like hovering around 1 or 2 positions. That's a lot of talent there. So if it's not Noni, I think it's Neto on the right wing. I don't know that we're going to see Palmer there. And then if it's not Mudryk, I think it's Neto or Felix, but I'm not sure where Nkunku fits there. I was scratching my head during the match thinking the same thing, Matt. Very spot on.
I think just like with the midfield conversation, we're going to see all kinds of rotations, all kinds of variations throughout the course of what is going to be a very long season. Like you said, we're going to see Neto probably on both wings. We're going to see João Felix playing as a 9 at some point. We're going to see Nkunku being a support striker. We're going to see him on the left wing. We're going to see him as a 9. Nkunku will get his minutes. Absolutely. He is one of the poster boys for this regime. And for these sporting directors, he will get his minutes. I'm not worried about him whatsoever. All right. Last thing, maybe somebody in the media needs to be worried about this. We got a little battle brewing here between a Chelsea player and a former Chelsea player, now media personality. That's Nico Jackson versus John Obi Mikel. So John Obi Mikel in recent weeks has mentioned that Nico Jackson, basically he's not up to Chelsea's standards, right? Needs to score more goals, needs to shut up, needs to not worry about all the stuff off the pitch. Just worry about scoring goals. That's the only thing he needs to do. Nico Jackson scores this week, puts it up on his social media, his Instagram story, basically telling John Obi Mikel to fuck off, that he's harming African football. Mikel's been ruffling feathers in the last couple weeks, but where do you guys stand in this head-to-head?
I don't mind it. in all honesty, see both sides of the argument. John Obi Mikel, yes, he had a great tenure with Chelsea, but you have to also remember he was kind of the closer. He would come on in like the 80th minute of a lot of games. He wasn't like a starter for, I would say, a decent chunk of his Chelsea career. But he does have some pedigree to back up kind of what he's saying, right? We talk about, how Chelsea used to be, right? Like buying the top talent and everything like that, and having that Chelsea standard. I wouldn't say that Nico's up to that standard yet. Could he get there? Absolutely. I don't think he's there yet. I'm curious to see how Nico is going to consistently respond to it, because we've seen him in the past where he's like, yeah, I love all the shit talking, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes on a stretch of like a month without a goal. So I'm hoping for Nico that is not the case, that it continues to light that fire that I think he needs in order to get the best out of him. Whether it's in-house with somebody from Chelsea or somebody else, like, good, but focus on what you need to do. And maybe that was the message that John Obi Mikel was trying to get across. Maybe he didn't use the right words. I don't know, whatever the case is. Maybe that's just something like, hey, don't worry about all the external bullshit. Go out and do what you're paid to do. It's possible. I did see his kind of quote today, and I think I sent it to you guys. I'm in agreement with exactly what he said as a response. Like, if you play bad, I'm going to say that you played bad. If you played well and tell me to shut the fuck up, I'll own that and I will take it. But you got to make him shut the fuck up. That's the problem. Like, you can tell people whatever, but until you get out there and you prove it and you give them a reason to not say you played like shit this match, they're going to keep talking. So it is Nico's job to shut them up by his actions on the field. I'm all for it. I'm all for a little rivalry.
John Obi Mikel needs to shut the fuck up. That's what he needs to do. He got famous with his podcast because he brought Jose Mourinho on, and Jose Mourinho just said whatever Jose Mourinho wanted to say. John Obi Mikel is a cult hero at Chelsea. He's not a Chelsea legend. He's a guy who came off the bench for 90% of his career. Nico Jackson scored more goals last season than anyone since John Obi Mikel played for the club. What are you bitching about? This is a guy who's knocking in goals. Goal scoring has been an issue for years now at Chelsea. And we have a striker who can knock in goals, and he's young and he's improving and will only score more. John Obi Mikel is exactly like, and I catch some strays here, but is exactly like the home support currently at Stamford Bridge. Booing people off the pitch, or booing the team off the pitch when they're winning against Servette. Yes, it wasn't a great match, but why are you booing these guys off the pitch? You see the away support, and it's constant just support for the boys out there. Get behind the team. If you are Chelsea through and through, you love Chelsea, get behind the players. If you have issues with the club, you have issues with the club. It's not with the guys out on the pitch. Support these guys. These guys are young. These guys are developing. These guys are growing. It does nothing for you at the age of 37 on a fucking podcast to tear these guys down. It's a cheap shot. Shut the fuck up, back the team, and let Nico Jackson do his thing. That being said, if Nico Jackson's going to thrive off this, if he's going to, go in on this and it's going to create that anger within him, and he scores more goals because of it, cool. But in the meantime, John Obi Mikel, stay in your lane.
I'm much more in your final point than I was with you throughout it. I don't think he should shut the fuck up. I think he should continue to kind of poke the bear, because I think that's what makes Nico thrive. We've heard other things about trying to motivate him and trying to kind of get the best out of him, from showing him clips of Chelsea legends like Drogba to, putting their arm around him, to talking to him. I think he's kind of like a Diego Costa kind of player, where you're not going to be able to like talk to him rationally. Sometimes you're going to have to fire him up through sort of unconventional means. Some of it's going to come just from him being a player. Some of it's going to come from bulletin board material that he has. You know what? However it happens, I don't think anyone cares. I think we all want the end result. I don't think John Obi is just trying to tear him down for no benefit. I think he's obviously trying to get clicks and views and whatever for his podcast. I think that's the second half of his life where he's trying to drive something to and whatever. But I also think that there's merit in what he says, in the sense of like, hey, don't worry about all the other bullshit, because we've talked about Nico's actions and antics on and off the pitch. Some of it does need to get addressed. Some of it does need to get called out. Like dudes like Dennis Rodman, like they had to fly to Vegas for a weekend to be able to like get it out of their system and come back. Those things shouldn't be celebrated. They just need to be like acknowledged and move on, right? Like you just have to kind of take it in stride and work with it, because that's just kind of how some of these guys are. You don't have to celebrate them. You don't have to praise them. You don't have to criticize them. You just have to kind of take it. So some of it, I think people are just trying to get through to them a little bit and trying to get the best out of them. I don't see it as too harmful. If it continues, it could be harmful and it can turn into something more than what it is. But right now I kind of see it as harmless jabs, poking each other and whatnot. And yeah, if Nico continues to put the ball in the back of the net and creates a John Obi celebration in the meantime to kind of let him know that I hear you and I see you, but here I am scoring, I'm all for it.
My main issue comes, in fact, that Nico Jackson's not the first person that Mikel has come after in this current Chelsea squad. I think it was it this preseason or last preseason? Talking about Mudryk needs to stop worrying about his hair and his tattoos. Again, it's a guy who, like Nico Jackson, kind of goes up and down. He seems to be an emotional player. He went after Enzo a couple months ago. He's gone after Caicedo. It's just him poking the bear to get clicks. And I realize that that's the game of podcasting, right? You got to get your clicks. But for somebody who talks about themselves as a Chelsea legend, which he has on his podcast, then act like one. Talking about a guy talking about Nico Jackson, not being able to score goals. John Obi Mikel was a striker until he came to Chelsea. They moved him to a number 6 because he couldn't shoot the fucking ball. So again, stay in your lane.
And me personally, if having one target that you're focused on eliminates all the other external bullshit, perfect. Like, if you think about it like this, if you have just one person who just annoys the hell out of you and you're more concerned about sticking it to that one person than anybody else on social media, the internet, whatever you want to do, I'm fine with that. You're focused on just one thing, right? And all the other bullshit goes away. I'm fine with that. Maybe I'm being optimistic in my approach. Maybe I'm reaching a little bit, but hey, I've always found that when I played, like, I need the game within a game. I need something like, yes, that person said something. I'm going after just that person. I don't care about anything else, anything anybody else says, that person. And everything else just kind of goes away. I like it. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping that it's, Parker, like you said, kind of harmful jabs, just kind of small little shots here and there. But I'm hoping that everything is going to work out better in Chelsea's favor and in Nico's favor as a result of this.
All right, well, boys, that pushes us up against the hour here. Chelsea resume action this Thursday in Switzerland at Servette before, I believe, going to Crystal Palace over the weekend. Labor Day weekend, 3-day weekend here in the States. Boys, how are we feeling about these two matches?
Fine about the Servette. Should be all right. Should be able to see it through. Away at Palace is not a gimme. They'll give us a tough one. Also, just wanted to very quickly point out that I forgot that last year Wolves did the double against us. Good to beat them.
Justification for firing Poch.
And on that horrible segue, I think that we're fine against Servette. Not too worried about that. Palace, I could see us being in another kind of dogfight. Parker, as you described, kind of that first half against Wolves, I could see it going the same way. Just looking at Palace, looking at their attack with Olise and Eze. I could see that being a problem for us. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So just two quick things. Number one, we are at home against Palace. That's my mistake. I just looked that up. I'm not worried about that one either, with Olise being at Bayern.
Forgot about that.
Yeah,
Thanks for reminding me.
Palace doesn't have anybody who scares me anymore. It is always a tough matchup. I'll give them that. But I like to week to week go off of emotion of how we did in previous weeks. So win against Servette and 4-0 against Palace. I'll take it.
Vibes.
So one quick thing, if we have a couple more minutes, the black kit was dropped. What are our initial thoughts?
We're all in like pretty well agreement on this one.
Collins, I'll start with you.
I like it with the pink sponsor logo. I like the women's kit that says Infinite Athlete in pink across the front because it distracts from the stupid Nike logo. Now, without the sponsor on there, I'm not a big fan of the pattern taking up the whole kit. That being said, I will probably buy one.
You can buy a women's one too. What did you guys think of the? I don't know if this was an official Nike drop or whatever. Did you see the reasoning behind the vertical?
Is that like punk power thing?
No, again, I don't remember if this was Nike official or not, but someone said like it's with the double swoosh for the signification of the female game and like pointing upwards and above what we've been doing, something to that effect. It just sounded like very, very, very marketing bullshit to justify something that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Like someone after the fact, like, ooh, we need a reason for this. Let's say it's to promote the female game, which I'm all for promoting the female game, but I don't think you need goofy logos to do that. So it's a head scratcher for me. I also know that Nike does things in waves, and we're not the first, nor will we be the last kit that has the vertical swoosh on it. So it is annoying. It detracts from what I think is fairly solid kind of 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 kit. Kind of drops it to a 5, 6 for me.
I'm a fan. I love it. I am not a fan of the vertical Nike logo. Parker, now that you mentioned it, I'm looking into kind of what the reasoning behind it is. It seems like it's something that's just going to be predominant, just a new Nike logo that's going to be going on a lot of third kits with the double swoosh. Fine, if that's the way they're going with it. I don't agree with the vertical, but overall, I like it. I like the pattern that's on the front of it. I will probably get one this year.
You know who did a great logo rebrand on kits is Adidas. They just cleaned up their logo, removed the actual Adidas under the logo, and it looks fantastic on there. Why couldn't Nike do something similar? Also, I just looked this up just out of curiosity. We are on a 15-year contract with Nike. Be ready for those vertical Nike swooshes for about the next, let's see, this was as of a couple of years ago. So for the next 12 years.
I am a fan of the not the crest, but just the lion. I do think that looks really clean in the pink. They did a nice job with that half of the kit, just the non-Nike part of the kit.
Wait till they bring back 3 as a sponsor.
Threve. You wager Texas with a $sign.
Well, on that better note, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. We were on Twitch tonight. Make sure to check us out. Today's not Sunday, but we're most Sundays on Twitch. Some Sundays. Make sure to check us out there again at Flag Down Pod. We're on social media again at Flag Down Pod. Nice and easy. All you got to remember is at Flag Down Pod. Thank you all for listening, boys. Thank you for being here on this wonderful Monday evening. And yeah, I don't have a closing note. I'm tired.
Safe travels, bro. We'll see you in a few.
Cheers.
Later.
Bye.